That was a short one. The most expensive artwork that Russian has. He bought it for 127 million. He's selling it for 450. In the heart of the South, on the shores of Lake Geneva, in the land of strength and discretion, you will discover the most secretive place in Switzerland. In the middle of a warehouse complex, a stone's throw from the border with France, is the Geneva Freeport. Watched by surveillance cameras and fences, this complex is traditionally a customs zone where merchandise is stored before being exported abroad. But today, it has become a permanent storage site, with 60,000 square meters of space rented by the city of Geneva to transporters or to private individuals to safeguard their assets. Behind these anonymous double-locked doors, there is gold and diamonds. It is also the largest wine cellar in the world, with 3 million bottles linked to rest. Long cruise bottles worth 500, 1,000, $2,000, quietly maturing and gaining in value at a constant temperature and humidity. Oh, Johnny Depp would like that place. He likes his wine. And to protect these treasures from fire, a special room houses hundreds of extinguishers that can be activated at any moment. Another reason the Freeport takes so many precautions is because behind its gates rests priceless works of art, thought to be worth tens of billions of dollars. It's perhaps the world's largest museum, but a museum no one can visit. The Geneva Freeport is one of Europe's best kept secrets. It stores works by Picasso, Rembrandt, Leonardo da Vinci, and thousands of antiquities, a treasure the size of which nobody knows the scale or the value. You'll never obtain an inventory of all the works in the Freeport. Who knows how many there are? 300, 3,000, 300,000? Another secret is the name of the owners of the works. You don't want anyone to know what you're up to, and that's where the store comes in. Recently, a number of cases have tainted the institution's name, including Jewish assets, money laundering, tax fraud. It's hard to see whether they were hidden or not, but it was much very discreet in the Freeport. The Geneva Freeport is an Eldorado for art dealers, wealthy heirs, and fraudsters. It's where they do their business, hidden from view. One man agreed to open the doors of the Freeport to us, Yves Bouvier. With his managing director, Ramon Castells, he runs the world's biggest company in the transport and storage of artworks. The customs office is in. With customs, they hear permanently. The site is controlled by them, and they impose the opening times. It's impossible to enter outside of those hours. And Swiss customs permanently control that. The procedures in place are the strictest in all Europe.
So they value stuff more than people's lives. So you couldn't walk in there with a bomb. Hey? Oh, you could. Because they don't let you not. You don't have to tell them what you've put in there.
Here, look here. Special handcrafted paper. What's that just behind us? A painting by Modigliani. I shouldn't be telling you that.
Does that go back on, or is something else coming?
In the heart of the South, on the shores of Lake Geneva, in the land of thanks and discretion, you will discover the most secretive place in Switzerland.
Yeah, hate it. What happened there?
In the middle of a warehouse complex, a stone throw forward is the Geneva Freeport. Watched by surveillance cameras and surrounded by barbed wire fences, this complex is true storage site with 60,000 square meters of space rented by the. It is also the largest wine cellar in the world, with 3 million. You don't want anyone to know what you're up to, and that's where the Freeport comes in. Recently, a number of cases in Geneva, Luxembourg, and Singapore. The man nicknamed the Freeport King had a great idea. To earn client loyalty, his company would not only pack and ship artworks, it would provide, in Geneva, 20,000 square meters of storage space, along with framing and restoration workshops.
See, it can. Well, they've been paying a lot of money to have it, and it will frame them and restore them.
In which to admire their assets or negotiate space.
Right?
Gallery owners and buyers can thus be in total discretion.
They can buy the artwork there.
Today, the former shipper has become a multi-millionaire. We meet him again in Paris, in the high class.
Oh, this is the bloke that the Russian is trying to sue.
Yves Bouvier, the shipbuilder beneath a Freeport, welcomes us to his Paris home, a richly decorated and furnished apartment. This is the living room. Here's Baudelaire.
Oh, he's got Baudelaire.
So this is a note to him. I also love this globe, which belongs to Douanier Rousseau, who painted jungle scenes with animals, although he never traveled. It was in a bad state, so I had it restored. This is a small romantic work by Bonnard. It's very pure and simple. By storing and shipping his clients' artwork, Yves Bouvier gradually learned another much more lucrative trade as an art dealer. This is a store, and this is a store, and what about this? Another store. Meet the brands reimagined that powered by Shopify.
Right? Yeah. No, you don't.
What have I done? 30 years of working in the art world. I learned to listen to the professionals and find out how things work.
Did that bloke make mention of that, or?
I'm a scorer. I got to know
Ah.
things instead of knocking crazy around. I knew how to open my ears and learn the ropes. Lots of art dealers are ex-restorers, ex-restaurant owners, ex-clothing store owners, ex-butchers. So like them, I learned through practice. For 30 years, Yves Bouvier has been in the ideal place to learn the secrets of the market. In the art business, every dealer wants to get hold of information. All dealers thrive on information, so they need knowing which painting is up for sale, who's overseeing,
And he's got first dibs.
whether there's trouble, like a divorce. Everyone's after information. Being in the know is key in the art market. Whether it's buying or selling, everyone wants information. Thanks to the network he's built up, the businessman has even opened a gallery on the Quai Voltaire, the antique dealer's district, one of Paris's most prestigious addresses. He takes us there. He wants to show us how well established he is, and how he buys and sells some of the most renowned names in painting and sculpture. How are you? Good. And you? Fine, thank you. You look very serious. Very. Would like to know the place? Coming up with us, the gallery director greets us. The gallery houses significant and very expensive works. This marble sculpture of Eve is by Auguste Rodin. It's already been reserved by an Asian client. It's an original piece in marble, not the bronze of which several casts were made. It's particularly beautiful and sensual. Her position, her legs, her hair.
I reckon Camille Claudel did some of his work, you know that? Because if you look at his work, it's like a different artist did this work. It doesn't look like it came from him.
And how about Chagall? Is it for sale? Sure. All these works are for sale. And what's the price of Chagall? I can't tell you the price of the Chagall, because the price is a very delicate matter. So I can't tell you. I'm sorry. There's lots of discretion regarding the prices. It's not fiscal discretion. We just don't want to announce a price, only for it to go up afterwards, and have a person think he would be better off buying it earlier, or that you might accept a lower offer just to close the deal. So prices aren't really mentioned in the art market. There are discussions and bargaining with prices higher and lower depending on the period. So it's very hard to give a price. Art dealers don't like to give prices in the first publicized. According to inside information, these works are worth several $1 million. An art gallery with a view of the Louvre. Quite a showcase. There you are. But these Boukie's good fortune is today soured by a series of lawsuits.
Yeah. The Russian.
In May 2015, an article about him appeared in the report entitled Zaya, the Billionaire and the Cursed Picasso. It was a look into some of the darker practices of the art market. The allegations made by the report were such that the magazine was found guilty of infringement of privacy. The hard-hitting article tells the random clash between Boutier and one of the richest men on the planet, a Russian, Dmitry Ribolovlev, seen here in this photo taken in his living room in Monaco.
He's a very private man, that one.
The story goes back to 2002.
Yeah, he look.
And Boutier met the Russian billionaire, a close friend of Prince Albert. He's the owner of the soccer club AS Monaco. Boutier and Ribolovlev hit it off immediately. Here they are at a costume party on the billionaire's private Greek island. For 10 years, Yves Boutier helped his friends put together an exceptional collection of paintings and sculptures as compiled in his catalog. He acquired works by Modigliani, Gauguin, Rodin, Renoir, and even Leonardo da Vinci, plus some Picasso. In all, 38 works for the mind-boggling sum of just over $1,800,000,000. But their friendship would come to a brutal end during a meeting in Monaco in February 2015. Yves Boutier's attorney, David Guillaume, explained. The story started in a rather violent and unexpected way. Yves Boutier arrived in Monaco for what he thought was going to be a commercial meeting with his client for several years, Mr. Dmitry Ribolovlev. And as it was described in the press, he walked into a trap. Because on reaching Mr. Ribolovlev's home, instead of being greeted by his bodyguards, the Monaco police were waiting for him. They arrested him and detained him for the whole weekend. The Russian billionaire has filed charges against Yves Boutier. He accused him of making exorbitant profits of $1 billion at his own personal loss. Ribolovlev claimed to have paid double what his collection was worth. Take, for example, this painting, number 6, by Mark Rothko. We managed to get a hold of the documents of the transaction. Yves Boutier bought it from wealthy landowners in the Bordeaux region for $83,500,000. A few weeks later, as this invoice shows, the painting was sold to an offshore company, Accent Delight, which belongs to the Russian billionaire. Acquired for $83.5 million, the Roscoe was sold for $140 million. Yves Boutier's profit on the deal, almost $70 million. With this Picasso, this player was naked woman. The profit was even more staggering. Purchased on October 7, 2010 for $3.5 million. It was sold on to Dmitry Ribolovlev the very next day for $25 million. A profit of $21 million in 24 hours. Yves Boutier's profits were colossal. When his attorney sweeps the accusations aside, he believes there was nothing illegal in his client's profits, and the Russian billionaire should have been shrewder. So, from a judiciary and legal point of view, the case is sophisticated. But basically, we go up there, it's easy. My friend, you sold these paintings and other artworks of incontestable quality, but I think that the margins you took are far too high in regard to what I believe our relationship should be. So, if the trial concerning the enriching of Steve Bouvier has no legal grounding, we tried to contact the Russian billionaire Dmitry Urbanov. He prefers not to comment. Steve Bouvier indicted in Monaco in February 2015 for fraud and complicity in money laundering. The investigation is still ongoing. But in the Urbanov collection, there were two other paintings that would cause trouble. In September 2015, the billionaire posed with these two gouaches, which, like the rest of his collection, he bought from Yves Bouvier. The Russian is beaming with joy. He thought he had done good business with these two portraits of Jacqueline, Picasso's last wife, Spanish woman with a fan, and woman arranging her hair. But an unexpected figure came along to spoil the party. Catherine Houdin, one of Picasso's heiresses, Jacqueline's daughter. She filed a complaint for theft and suspected Yves Bouvier of being involved in the fencing of the two paintings sold to Rigolovlev along with 58 drawings. A judge in Paris issued an international warrant for Bouvier's arrest. The argument was suddenly being sought by police forces all over the world. Here's Jacqueline Houdin with publicly counsel and her mother. Back then, they lived in the south of France on the hill of Boucher, an old farmhouse called Notre Dame de Vie. Picasso lived and painted there for 20 years or so. In the 14th district of Paris, we're going to meet Pepita Dupont. This former journalist was Jacqueline Picasso's confidant. She wrote about their relationship in a book, and she witnessed the scale of the artist's body of work.
Pablo worked all the time. Pablo described him as a standing man. He never ever stopped. I often said to Jacqueline, not possible. I always got the impression, even though he was no longer there, that every time I arrived at Notre Dame de Vie, they were your works. Because there was something in them. It just wasn't human.
On the artist's death in 1973, then on Jacqueline's death 13 years later, almost 2,000 paintings, 7,000 drawings, and 1,200 sculptures were officially recorded. In order to pay the inheritance duty, part of the work was given to the state, something known as payment in lieu.
This is the payment in lieu after Jacqueline Picasso's death. Her daughter, Catherine Houdin, gave all this to France instead of paying the inheritance duty.
And how many works were there?
47 paintings, loads of drawings, 24 sketchbooks, 245 etchings, 19 ceramics, and a papier collé by George Braque.
So everything else belongs to Madame Dupont.
Right.
Personally,
There are 47 paintings here. At Jacqueline's house, that's hundreds and hundreds. I couldn't give you an exact figure. I'm not an accountant. I really couldn't say.
Picasso's body of work was enormous. Some of his work went unrecorded after the painter died. They were probably hidden away during the inventory for the inheritance. So that is what this report suggests by the director of the Picasso administration, who represents the family's interests.
It is likely that certain works escaped the inventory as they had been hidden by Jacqueline.
This is thought to be the case for the two disputed paintings. Accused of being involved in the theft of the two portraits, he will be defended and declares that he did indeed pay Captain Lieutenant. Her lawyers apparently asked him to pay money, not directly to the Picasso heirs, but to a trust fund, an offshore company based in a tax haven.
I received the banking details of the trust in Liechtenstein from a law firm in Geneva called FPC, which is an Eastern law firm. Having already done business with them, I was certain it was them, nobody doubts that. So my company in Liechtenstein paid the money into the trust fund.
To prove his claim, he shows us this document, which is apparently the receipt for payment for the two portraits. NEI Invest, UVA's company, paid $8 million to Novio Trust, based at the central bank in Vaduz, capital of Liechtenstein.
You know, Pablo Picasso, what one of his sons was his chauffeur because he got in trouble with the law. Now this is one of the daughters, or granddaughter, right? And she's a bit of a criminal because she sold paintings to that bloke, and then she say no, he stole them. So she got the money, and also wants the paintings back. Look, and it's got proof that they bought them from her. Yeah, they said. Oh, that was his last marriage. Yeah, listen.
That's the first qualification. After that, when you benefit from other people's help to set up the system, it becomes organized crime. When you play cash ping pong between one company and another, it's money laundering or tax fraud.
EPG had to pay several $1 million in bail to have an international arrest warrant lifted. And still facing indictment for potentially stolen goods. The argument made two accusations.
That was right.
Picasso Harris's financial scam.
See, she was scamming.
I bought the work of art by Picasso, the Sotheby's, painter and his model. Madame Dana wanted the work because the model was certainly her mother. So I sold it to Madame Dana's company.
His own son. You know one thing that Russian doesn't have? My work. Exactly. Needs my work.
Once again, no mention of her name. The money was paid to an offshore company in Panama this time, Alpha Michael. Well, the drawing turned up at the Geneva report.
I sold the work to Madame Dana's company, Alpha Mayo, a Panamanian company. Then I delivered the work to her lawyer in Geneva.
Madame Dana had her own store in there?
Yes, she has. It's rented by her lawyer.
And you personally put into the work at the Freeport?
No, it travelled from Sotheby's in London to Geneva and was placed in Madame Dana's storeroom at the Freeport, which is managed by her lawyer.
And you know what he's done?
No, I've never been in there.
We contacted Captain Detail's lawyer for a response to what would be a serious accusation. Here is her response.
Madame Dana does not wish to communicate or to participate in any court broadcast.
Now, why do they do that?
The monster was secret and shady financial setup are maxims for French tax inspectors and customs officers.
Because those family, they should be loaded,
Especially in fraud.
you know? Because they've still got these works.
Faced with such scams, he recognizes his power.
No, because he's before he died, he did a lot of works, but they're really horrible. He had it last exhibition. Nobody liked it. It was like he was really, like he was angry. I think he was angry at life and cheated him. But he had a good life.
After 30 years in the business, he has suffered many. Every year in May, he heads to Basel in Switzerland for the biggest art fair in the world, Art Basel. He flies in a private jet, for which he pays $50,000 a year. Despite his tangles with the law, he wants to be in the right places.
Art Basel is the biggest annual art fair in the world, especially for 20th century and contemporary art. And to be there is a must. All the dealers and people in the art world meet in Basel during those 4 days.
It'll be interesting to see how you get along with the other dealers.
I have lots of good relationships with other dealers. The only thing is, with your camera there, they might be a little bit shy.
Why is that?
Regarding my personal situation, they certainly won't want to be seen on film with me.
So they'll avoid you like the plague.
No, because if no one's around, we'll go for a coffee, have a chat, slap each other on the back. But the camera there, they'll avoid me because they don't want people to know they're friends with me.
And yet, very long as private jet, we soon see that his controversial reputation causes fewer problems than predicted.
There you are.
You know, I think a lot of the rich are jealous of each other.
How are you?
You know that?
His first appointment is with one of the art fair's founders, Lorenzo Rudolph. Both men have businesses in Singapore and are good friends.
I've had half of my bank account in the world closed in general conditions. But UBS, which I've been with since I was a kid, say I'm no longer welcome. But politely, they just close the account and cancel my credit card. I've had 50 bank accounts closed down. When you're in trouble, people clear off at lightning speed. There's no stealing in this business.
That's credit cards. So that means he's not using his own money.
It's annoying.
They don't wash their hands.
It really is.
Exhibitor works at Art Basel. It attracts the general public, but more importantly, the biggest players on the international art market. Gallery owners, collectors, and curators of the world's museums.
So the rich all play with other people's money. They never use their own.
Art consultants, 16,
So that's why they can afford to gamble.
million trends. Most of the works on show come from the storeroom.
But the ones that suffer is when they fuck up. It's the everyday people.
The exhibit shows its fellow professionals and it's still and it's still
Yeah,
taken seriously.
they're the ones that end up suffering.
How are you?
Oh, great. And my business is growing good.
Same here. How are you doing? Wonderful. Great.
With the way the what is it? It sounds so fake. You know the ad. Yeah, but the way they're saying it, it's being dubbed. It sounds so fake, doesn't it?
There's no EPA.
And the English, it's on it. Put it in English.
Is David Lamont. Clearly troubled by our camera, EPA quickly called his assistant to go reassure him.
When you see David Nana alone, tell him not to worry. I won't let them use any footage of him.
But he has no rights regarding our footage.
It's just I saw him flee the camera, and I don't want him to worry.
Now, These photographs are extra strong, 3 times menthol, leave the nose and soothe the front. David Navarre isn't just anyone. He's the man with 300 Picasso, the head of one of the most powerful families in the art world, the Navarres, renowned dealers. Here's their stand at Art Basel, profiles by Calder, Miro, Fontana, Picasso, and also a Roy Lichtenstein, and a Jean Dubuffet, all of them stars of modern art. The Navarre collection is valued at almost $3 billion.
I don't have mine there.
Which are stored Maybe the reason David Navarre prefers to be discreet is because one of the paintings he owns is causing him problems with the law.
Not Picasso.
The story started here in the Paris archives in 2011 with this man, James Hallward. He is a Canadian private detective who specializes in finding art looted from Jews by the Nazis. One day, while rummaging in the Paris archives, he came across a file of a certain Stefanos, a Jewish antique dealer. The man was dispossessed of all his assets during World War II. After the liberation of Paris, he found a friend who would recuperate his patrimony. The documentation is contained in this book. Was here in the Paris archives that found a document that referred to the quest of Mr. Oscar Stefanos for his stolen painting. The reason was that Oscar Stefanos had been despoiled of a number of personal items, carpet, for example, a portrait of him as a young man, and also a painting by Barbara an important painting, and that was looted from Mr. Stefanos during the war. The Canadian detective began his investigation. He discovered that the antique Stefanos had made his claim to restitution in 1946. But well before the liberation, the painting had already been sold by the Vichy authorities for the sum of 16,000 francs. Since then, it disappeared. Particularly because its description is so vague. The document only indicated that it was a painting signed by Modigliani, Portrait of a Man. The detective had no idea.
They should be ashamed of themselves, them people, because it's stolen artwork. And these were, people,
James Palmer came across a clue.
and the rich people think, oh, they should give it back. Yeah, I know.
That it was done in the Venice Biennale of 1930.
And the rich should not think they're entitled to it because they paid for it. I hope he gives them bad luck,
I saw Mr. Stefanos
because it was taken from,
in a photograph.
see, he stumbled on it by luck.
He found it. This photo, taken at the 1930 Venice
See?
Biennale, shows 12 paintings on the wall of the room dedicated to the Giuliani. 10 portraits of women and 2 of men. The one on the right is already identified and well known. The painting in the middle, however, the one of the seated man, is more mysterious. The man Scott
Ah, you know that, honey. Yeah, I know he found it. But the painting, because of that, it disappeared.
Finally, James Palmer knew what the painting looked like. But where had it gone? He searched everywhere, activated his contacts, toured the auctions, archives, and museums. And after a few weeks, bingo. He found a trace of the painting here in London, in the catalogue of an auction held at Christie's in 1996. The painting was entitled Seated Man with a King. But who owned it? It was acquired by a shell company based in Panama, International Art Center. The registration document is in here. Its rightful owner is unnamed. And yet, Palmer refused to give up, and finally discovered another deed defining the true owner. Over the years, the work appeared in a number of catalogs, and every time, alongside the name of one of the most prestigious galleries in the world, the Hetty Nahmad Gallery in New York, run by the daughter of the family patriarch we ran into at our castle.
See, them auction houses and that, they know some of the work is fake. They know it's stolen. They did try and hide a lot.
For our claim, contacted
But they're trying to crack down on that.
Hetty Nahmad Gallery and held them out of New York. And they were ignored. Which is not right. It's not.
It's Sotheby's in England, they were selling, they knew that the laws now are tightened on. I know.
James Palmer was not taken in by her response. He filed a lawsuit against the Hetty Nahmad Gallery in New York. But once again, the lawyers denied the family were the owners of the painting.
Well, somebody has to own it. A lot of corruption because it's money. There's big money in it.
It's International Art Center and nobody else, not the Hetty Nahmad Gallery, nor David Nahmad, that bought the painting at an auction as a courtesy. Things stopped yet there until 2015 and the leaking of the Panama Papers. Extraordinary. A document published by the journalist revealed that behind the Panamanian company International Art Center was the renowned art dealer David Nahmad. So he was a shareholder of the company that owns the Modigliani painting, despite its constant denial. The detective had scored a point. Now he just had to find out where Modigliani's seated man was in storage. He had a bright idea. Maybe it was in the Geneva Freeport, where the Nahmad family kept a major part of its collection. The Swiss judiciary issued a search warrant for the Nahmad story in April 2016 and discovered the Holy Grail, the much sought after painting. It's hard to say if they were hidden or not, but it was kept very discreetly in the Freeport, where there are the Nahmad family estimated to have those $3 to $4 billion worth of art, or those 4,500 works of art in little rooms in the Freeport. The painting claims that they really was well and truly in the Nahmad story in the Freeport, a revelation that caused an uproar. The heirs of the antique specimens have now filed a claim for the restitution of the painting. We contacted the Nahmad. After several attempts, they finally agreed to open up their storeroom in the Geneva Freeport and to show us the painting in an exhibition room. We would never meet the art dealers themselves, but they did accord us an exclusive view of the painting. A very solemn moment. The work was handled with great precaution. It is estimated at about $20 million today. The family Swiss lawyer would tell us their version of the story. The painting itself doesn't pose a problem. It's the fact that within the framework of the American court case, it is possible to affirm that the painting belongs to the Nahmad family because they're only the indirect owners. Legally, it belongs to the International Art Center, of which they are shareholders. And that's something that's well known throughout the art dealing world. To carry this triumph even further, the lawyer even raises doubts that the painting never belonged to the British antique dealer, Steffen. They also
That's just,
So it is possible that he was the owner, but that he sold it at a Venetiano, in which case that would prove that his descendants claim is full. Another possibility is that Angelina exhibited the painting on behalf of one of his clients who wished to remain anonymous. And this is yet to be disproved by the opposing party. We have only a few minutes to film this. One of the handlers turned the work around. We happened to film something on the back that we only noticed later. This label from the 1930s that is the owner saying that they crudely erased. And it looks like that of Stefan. A clue to which the detectives never had access, and which could be crucial for the next stage of his investigation. The Canadian detective is convinced that the Geneva Freeport could be housing other works of dubious origin. Well, I think there's a high probability that many other paintings in the Freeport were probably looted and probably rest there today.
yeah, I reckon so too.
And I believe they're there. And I think that it would be very interesting.
And they pass hand to hand, they go pass hand silently under, it's, yep.
So that, the prosecutor's office were to provide us with information on it could quickly tell which one is sold.
There's a roarer here.
There's no point in dreaming. No one will know for years what they stole in the Freeport. There's no inventory. You'll never find an inventory of old works in the Freeport. Top secret. And how many? 300, 3,000, 300,000? So it's a commercial secret. Yes, absolutely. Our French customs investigators do not the same opinion. It is on the other side of the fence. Freeport, known as Geneva, are always claiming the French company are huge amounts of assets concerning the Freeport. And the secret dream all proceeds off find out the beauty inside, who belongs to, and the sum of the real done. They don't want us to know what and whom. That's where the Freeport comes in. It covers up deals that are naturally discreet, commercially discreet, but also discreet because they can fraud. In Geneva, the Modigliani case is a headline. The Freeport authorities are being concerned about bad publicity. So in June 2016, they called an emergency press conference. All representatives of the main Swiss media were invited. And we started on the floor with the president of the Geneva Freeport and his general secretary. Both men seemed self-conscious, rejecting all responsibility regarding the supposed ownership of David Navarre. Even ownership seems to be legally correct. They are nonetheless dubious. And when we add to the hubbub around it, ownership of the painting was hidden. That's clear. It's not the only one. Other people and the American judiciary know where the word annually is. So all the really bothered people is the term hidden. Yes, the word was hidden. But it is deposited and it will be restored to whoever the judiciary decides. But what other secrets are really hidden in the Freeport? In Switzerland, some official authorities have become extremely concerning. We managed to obtain this report from the Swiss Federal Audit Office. It unequivocally denounces the opaqueness of the Geneva report.
Irregularities regarding inventory, an absence of traceability of merchandise, errors in the stock accountancy, and recurrent problems which occur during control.
Our French customs officer includes a laxity on the part of the Swiss administrators that oversee business conducted in the report. In a French logistics zone, like Guangzhou, Charles Airport, administrators can visit and circulate freely. They have up-to-date information on what comes in, what stock, what goes out, and can even intervene during the storage process. In Geneva, it's the opposite. Less control on what goes in and out, and on what's inside. That includes the Swiss authorities. They see the report as being outside of their territory. It's in their country at the same time hidden. So secrets are kept, which is what the auditors want, but also what the fraudsters want. In response to widespread criticism, the recently appointed president of the Geneva Tribunal, a magistrate known for his integrity, is supposed to be fighting the bourgeoisie, calling for much stricter regulation.
As it stands, federal legislation demands that the owner be named, but not the financial beneficiary. What we want is an extra space on the customs form to be filled out, specifically indicating the name of the financial beneficiary. But that's not the case yet. No, of course it isn't. But we hope that things will change. And in time, they will do. They're afloat in Switzerland, for sure, but no slower than encounters with a lot of criticism matters.
This man is aware that there is still a long way to go. But having agreed to make concessions on its banking secrecy, will Switzerland also finally agree to open the doors of the world's biggest state?
Among the treacheries of the American bomb,
How would you, as a higher intelligence, represent yourself to a lesser intelligence? Do you think they saw what they saw? It didn't just start showing up in 1947. How hard do you think it is for aliens to communicate with humans? What do we believe in? We believe in technology, so you should just come support of technology. Right? But the common thread is you're not alone. And there's something that's here with you. And there's something that's, as you said, watching. You are a professor at Stanford studying the biology of the human organism at the level of individual cells. So let me ask first the big, ridiculous, philosophical question. What is the most beautiful or fascinating aspect of human biology at the level of the cell to you? The micro machines or the nano machines that proteins make and become. That to me is the most interesting. The fact that you have this basically dynamic computer within every cell that's constantly processing its environment. And at the heart of it is DNA, which is a dynamic machine, a dynamic computation process. People think of the DNA as a linear code. It's codes within codes within codes. epigenetic state that's doing this amazing process. And if you ever wanted to believe in God, just look inside this house. The DNA is both information and computer. Exactly. How did that computer come about? A big thing on the philosophical question. This is both scientific and philosophical. How did life originate on Earth, do you think? How did this, at every level, so the very first step and the fascinating complex computer that is DNA, that is multicellular organism, and then maybe the fascinating complex computer that is the human mind? Well, I think it, Russian writer Alexander Pushkin once said, "The illusion which exalts us is nearer to us than 10,000 truths." If Pushkin had lived in the 20th century, he would have had a heyday browsing through UFO literature. In this strange world, where faith is often more important than knowledge, Switzerland abound. The world is full of tricksters of the imagination. People living more than 200 kilometers in the capital city will pay 20% less tax. 85% of Australia's wealth is from regions. Saying this, those mining in under Australia pay. Also, about 5 commas to the United Australia pay business. From the early 1950s, a rumor has persisted in UFO circles that one or more flying saucers crashed in one of the largest American deserts, in Arizona, New Mexico, or Utah. And what's more, according to witness reports, not only did the American Army recover remnants of his craft, they also captured some of its occupants. Despite the Army's silence, the mystery has lingered year after year. Should we or shouldn't we believe that aliens were captured? That's the question. The rumor grew as a result of information from various sources, such as Timothy Good, author of Beyond Top Secret. In Beyond Top Secret, I published the story of a Polish biophysicist who, together with a team of French, British, and Italian scientists, was taken to a vault in the JPL, Metropolitan Laboratory in Pasadena, California, where 3 levels below the floor level, they were shown materials, part of a skull and a hip bone of an alien creature recovered in New Mexico in 1947. They weren't given any further details, but subsequently, this Polish biophysicist, whose information I used, comes up with some detailed scientific information about what he learned about these creatures. However, despite Timothy Good's opinion, these unverifiable accounts do not constitute valuable proof in the eyes of non-believers. If they can't see and touch an alien, skeptics need more convincing proof than mere empty words. In the midst of ongoing debate between believers and skeptics, something spectacular happened. In the early 1990s, Redmond Scientific, a London-based film distributor, released an archived film that hit the world like a bomb. UFO circles and the Churchill Tower.
In the early 1990s, the film came to light, brought to the public by a chap called Ray Santini, who effectively said that he had purchased canisters of film from Bowen and Berger, who had shot them back in the 40s, and that what effectively they revealed was the autopsy of a captured alien at Roswell or some similar sort of event, and you see the eyes being removed and you see bits of the body being attached up. And it has the merit of one thing. Either that is a genuine alien autopsy or it's a fake. There's no argument that this could be some kind of mistake, that it's something else or whatever else. It's either one or the other.
As John Spencer said, the film Alien Autopsy fired up debate within the UFO community regarding authenticity of truth. Since verbal accounts of UFO sightings did not seem to be convincing enough proof, some believers decided to hark back to the old adage, a picture is worth 1,000 words. Starting in the 1950s, a series of amazing photos began to appear in the press. A photo that was supposed to depict an alien in charge of the control of the spacecraft was not Tomato Man, because of the perfectly round shape ahead. Upon closer examination of the picture, a pair of eyeglasses could be seen near the bird's body, proving that it was nothing more than a human pilot. In 1982, American UFO researcher Leonard Stringfield published Crash Retrievals Status Report 3, a document that dealt exclusively with alleged UFO crashes. On page 47 of the document, readers can see a picture of what is supposed to be an alien hand found by American agents in southern Florida. The famous photo appeared in several UFO magazines before falling into the hands of a photo professional in Massachusetts. Mark Seligman had been a medical photographer with Harvard University's Department of Neurobiology for 8 years.
When I saw this picture of the alien hand, it struck me first as a very low quality photograph. I saw right from the top that it was most likely a very poor copy, maybe first generation of a museum catalog photograph based on what I saw from the lighting and the density of it. Curiously enough, it was about that time too when I saw an exhibit at the Peabody Museum at Harvard on showpieces from P.T. Barnum. And in there was an artifact that he touted around called the mermaid. It had some obscure origin in the Philippines or something like that, but it was like a fish body with a monkey skull and these hands glued onto it, and the hands looked exactly like the alien hand. Harvard was kind enough to provide me with a photograph, which I sent to authorities the UFO authorities whom I very much respect. And and the alien hand became no longer the alien hand.
In the fall of 1990, newspapers published a photograph of what they claimed to be one of the aliens retrieved in Roswell, stating that the picture had been found in the archives of the deceased Dr. Ted Ziegel, an obscure Russian UFO specialist. A few months later, a second photograph appeared on the same subject, but much clearer than the first, raising wild speculation in UFO circles. Was it a leak within the Air Force, or a hoax orchestrated by information agencies? Although the origin of the first photo could not be confirmed, the origin of the second one could. In an article published in The Orbiter, American UFO researcher Jim Melesiuk said that he had obtained a photo from Canadian journalist Christian Page. The humanoid in the picture was nothing more than a waxed and latex figure on display in the early 1980s at the Strange World Pavilion. one of the few buildings still remaining from the 1967 magnetic world epidemic.
Today, we're ready to share our homes with the world and welcome you on board with warm smiles, kindness, and hospitality. Ready to inspire you with our Aloha spirit. Today, we're excited to have you on board because you know traveling feels more special now than ever. Hawaiian Airlines, Hawaii flies with us.
In February 1990, a few years before Raymond Santilli distributed his alien autopsy film, which had allegedly been taped by the U.S. Air Force the day after a flying saucer crashed in the Roswell desert, American and Canadian UFO researchers began to receive a series of strange documents in the mail. The anonymous author claimed that on November 4, 1989, a flying object of unknown origin had been forced to make an emergency landing in the swamp outside of the small town of Cork, Ontario. Once on the ground, the UFO was fired
Hey?
Looking good. So you're recording it.
U.S. Secret Service.
Good sound on all that. Okay, man, how so?
Don't tell Aurora. She worries about it.
The Army had swiftly moved the UFO to a secret government facility in Canada under the cover of night. As for the mysterious creature, they were supposedly secretly transported to the University of Ottawa, where CIA physiologists performed an autopsy on them. This incredible tale was accompanied by the topographical map of the area, as well as a photograph of one of the captured creatures. When he got wind of this amazing story, Raymond Lightfoot, a local UFO researcher, headed to Clark to investigate for himself. I went to the area, and on a Saturday, thinking people would be home, talked to 8 to 10 people exactly, and asked them had they seen anything over the swamp. So I talked to people who had the best view of that, and nobody had seen anything. I was getting frustrated. So where else do I go? So I turned and go to the other side of the road, and lo and behold, found 2 people who had seen something. One turned out to be the Latinx, and she told me that a bright light seen over the swamp, as bright as arc welding or electric welding at night time, and it was at such and such an angle from her house. Later on the same day, I was further down the road and found a younger lady who also told me she saw a bright light in the swamp behind her house. And this friend was on it, so Sean.
What do you mean?
You claiming that the Russians are fighting again?
Yeah.
Talking to those people, they went, what was
What the flag?
interestingly, the story that was given with that report that there'd been a crash said that roads had been cut into the swamp to take out the downed UFO. And even in the winter, when I first looked at that, there was no way anybody had cut a road into that swamp. And, I sort of said, well, that part of it isn't true. Maybe somebody saw a bright light, but they certainly hadn't cut any roads yet to retrieve anything from that swamp. Just when it appeared that this matter was fading into oblivion, further correspondence sparked the interest of crowd investigators once again. A year after the first anonymous package was sent, UFO researchers received another one, in which the author identified himself under the pseudonym Rocky.
was a member of the Guardians of the Secrets of the Holy Grail.
Oh,
What is that? What, I disagree because all
Showing a UFO.
he wanted his 5 minutes of fame.
you know, in Norway,
Yeah.
along the Norway, I think goes on the Russian border as well as Finland, right? There's a 1,000 mile, the pathway to Snowmobile,
Yeah.
so they can get ready, to go, there's a forum on both sides. I think it's in the road, but they've got 1,000 miles.
There
There's
were
Snowmobiles
various
that they use.
documents that the
Yeah.
different people, some had a story, others
So,
had, or in
saying
addition to the
that,
story, had
that's a
playing
reason,
cards.
oh,
With little
distance
notes
too.
written on there that DND and CSIS is involved and things like that. Very curious why you send playing cards, it looked like a movie. The only thing
In
that
America,
sense was
there's,
the background map happened to be the same.
19 hours later, you're still in the same place, you know, you can't go from one part, one side to the other.
Yeah.
19 hours, you're still in it.
Yeah.
Starts
When
off
you hear it,
with
Yeah, I know.
red light, four of them, burning nighttime picture, so it's totally black background and four flares of red light. And beside it, stationary, is a large, I'll say a large object. The only way you notice anything there is the fact that it's illuminated from underneath, and it's a very, very bright, intense light. And on top of this structure, there is something there with a rotating or flashing beacon. That video was filmed by someone holding the camera on their shoulder, presumably walking towards it. Taking it with a host, Graham Lightfoot returned to Carr, accompanied by Canadian and U.S. researchers. He later discovered that there was a reason why they were being so helpful. Dexler from the United States had been contacted, and he contacted Newfound, Ontario, and we all met in Carlton Place. And then I led them out to the site, and there was about 12 or 14 of us that day, and my thought was that we would knock on doors to see if anybody would split up the area, knock on doors to see if anybody had seen anything back on August the 18th of the previous year. We didn't knock on any doors, which I thought was a bit odd, but anyway, we did walk around the area. A lot of the chefs were getting hot and tired with mosquito bites and all that sort of thing. And they decided we'd all go for supper to Carr. It was up in Carr. Well, that's where his son Dan said no, they were going to find the crash site and they were going to stick at it.
there's been,
So within half an hour, they showed up at the front too. And
oh,
they found the site.
from
So
Yeah, but I want to listen to this.
we're not happy with the way experts.
Because these are supposed to be recent.
Have all the answers. And found the site now.
And it's asking the right questions, not the wrong ones.
And they more or less washed their hands of it and went home. On the other hand, I only live an hour away from that location, and I was curious enough to decide, well, I'm going to stick with it and see what's going on, see if we can find an answer. And since we had a quote expert from the U.S. here, let's see how expert does it. And so we spent the next day going around the area, and I finally convinced expert, let's go and talk to Lavinex, because Diane Lavinex had seen the light from 89. I said, wouldn't it make sense to go and talk to her? Maybe she saw something. Well, we talked to the Lavinex, and she told us that yes, she had seen this spaceship. She called it a ship repeatedly. She saw a fire in the grass. And yet it wasn't moving as it should, if it was a grass fire. And then she saw a ship or spaceship land.
which is what was in the Guardian video. In the Guardian video, it didn't land, it was stationary, it was already on the ground. But Diane told us that she saw it land, and it sat there for a few minutes, and she could see a lightning strike, sort of a zigzag line on the side of the craft, and the lights and so on. And after a short while, it took off, and then when it took off and disappeared, the lights went out, the flares. Now, that's her story, but what she described matched pretty closely what Guardian had sent on his video. And at that time, Diane had not seen the video that we did, so it made sense that she was telling a pretty good story. And Greg Mitchell and his colleagues inspected the site. They were unaware that they were being watched by another organization also interested in the mysterious document. Learning that a suspicious character was fabricating documents and attempting to pass them off as official reports of the Department of National Defense, the RCMP decided to carry out its own investigation. The RCMP came to the same conclusion of Greg Michael. The Guardian was nothing more than a charlatan. According to the RCMP, the alleged UFO on the videotape was nothing more than a Sikorsky helicopter filmed in the dark. As for the identity of Guardian himself, Graham Light was suspected that it was a UFO follower who was well known in the area. I think I know who Guardian is. As I say, he's been known in the area for talking about UFOs for 40 years. He has not admitted that to anyone to my knowledge. I have tried to see him and knocked on his door because I think I know who he is. But he always answers the door. I think it was probably done as a gift. When I say gift, it was just fun. It was something to do. Can we do it? And looking at the video, I say they did a pretty good job. Although the second-hand account of the cop incident was very simple to solve, others were much more complicated. Like the Ugo affair, a case so wrapped in mystery that many still doubt today that it could have been a hoax. One of the most ardent defenders of the Ugo affair is Professor John Piagetti, an astrophysicist and research director for the French National Center for Scientific Research, or CNRS. The team literally shocked his colleagues in 1990 when he announced that some of his work had been inspired by Unite Messages, a collection of typewritten letters that were primarily in Spanish. These letters were accentuated with odd words of so-called alien origin and signed by alleged visitors from the planet Ugo. What's interesting is what we do with our lives. I may be the only person interested in the subject of UFOs who publish scientific articles in high-profile magazines about fluid mechanics, ionized gases, cosmology, and geometry. Through reflection, I was able to produce high-quality material. What's published in UFO magazines nowadays is completely different. And I'm telling you that I was very inspired by UFO letters. Jean Bourdillon, a computer scientist who was also interested in the UFO documents, agreed that they contained information of alien origins. In studying the Unite letters and the glossary of alien terms used in the documents, Jean Bourdillon concluded that they could not be a hoax. In his book, Uno, True Extraterrestrials, Bourdillon explained how he came to this conclusion. When I began working with these letters, I didn't know the theories surrounding them. All I had to go on was the information transcribed by Jean Piagetti, and I wanted to find out more for myself, so I dug into the original source documents. These letters are difficult to read, and important information is never stated directly. It's only found by cross-referencing several of the documents. That means you need to spend a lot of time working with the documents, going through each one carefully and comparing them to each other. These documents were distributed to everyone, from UFO groups to the French National Space Research Center. No one wanted to admit that they supported this material, and that's that surprised me. Why was it so disturbing? Because people don't like to be let down on their own path. Flight material was not designed for scientists or UFO researchers. It's targeted towards highly intellectual people. I have friends who were mathematicians, and when they glanced at the material, they found it interesting and highly intellectual. Just look at the work done by Guillaume, which was not done for amateurs. It was very hard. It required thousands of hours of work. So you can't make a judgment on his work based on a cursory glance of it, especially if you don't have the required qualifications. To fully understand the scope and complexity of the Uno mystery, we need to go back to where it all began. In Madrid, Spain, in the mid-1960s. The key figure involved was Fernando Sesma, a Spaniard who claimed to have been in contact with extraterrestrials from Venus and Mars since the 1950s, as well as other inhabitants of the solar system. Then, along came new life.
It would be weird, Dad. I wouldn't advertise that. You feel like a nut. Oh, you're talking to the aliens. You know,
To say that, if you're talking to the alien, yeah, you would feel like
loony, because and then the alien says, "Oh, you're stuffing up the world," as if we didn't already know that. Why would they say that?
they would.
No, they wouldn't.
Yeah, and then speak their language, they speak your language, so
They read your mind, Henry.
do they? How do you know that? Because it's mild on that.
Ah,
The letters were sent to Sesma, who spoke about them.
why didn't they check the postmark? The postmark to see where it came from.
So they intentionally
Yeah, and then go there. Check him out on the side, you know, on the flat line.
was a true
Don't
not a sign.
straight on to him.
So a lot of the technical information was over his head.
Once you know, work out, after very short
As
time,
we started to
probably
notice,
after
people were still coming to hear about them, like engineer Enrique Piedras
you know, look into
and
his,
Dr. Diaz.
credentials.
These gentlemen and others began to receive the letters directly, and gradually they formed their own group, the famous Madrid group. They disassociated themselves from the Happy Whale Club, which continued to show interest in esoteric matters such as planets where butterflies lay eggs and half the baby ducks. That's the sort of thing that Sesma cared about. After 2 to 3 years, they were no longer interested in Emo at all. They exchanged for a month of stuff. Sesma turned over all of the Emo documents to burials. The Umex mail packages, which bore an emblem resembling a letter of the Cyrillic alphabet, explained that they had been living on Earth since the 1950s. They were part of a scouting mission sent to Earth from a planet in the Virgo cluster, and the content of the letter was designed to help advance humanity. The first Umex packages were received by Fernando Sesma in 1966. He received several dozen letters each year for many years. Over time, the Umex found other human contacts. Spanish, French, British, and even American representatives began receiving these odd packages. The last Umex correspondence was received in the mail in 1995.
He probably died. That's why they're not getting any more mail.
The alien spies.
The bloke you ready to go. He was the one doing the sending.
Something is real until it's
45 years. Yeah, probably did die.
I'm in the process of proving that they cannot stem from a human host because of all the ramifications that would involve. The contents of the letters themselves also prove it. I'm telling you that they are alien in origin because I have found strong proof of connection to support that.
You need an alien to prove that. You need alien handwriting.
325 words and more than
But the
400
words,
expressions,
they're like,
more or less coherent, that correspond to a language system having a base of 18 elements. That's quite something. It's real. And these Zoomite reports contain scientific information that we have started to study on the internet.
Like what?
When I say we, I mean the study group that was created to review my work.
Yeah, right.
This group now has more than 100 members throughout the world, primarily university students. Martin Costello co-authored The Star Conspiracy, an investigation into the Umar affair. She was surprised to find that this odd story seemed to circulate under a cloak of secrecy, even among university students.
I was a science journalist working for Figaro, and I was in charge of the science page. I had to prepare an article on a scientist named Jean-Pierre Lunet, who had written about black holes. So I went to New York to see him. Since he was a longtime friend of mine, once the interview was over, I asked him jokingly, Jean-Pierre, have you ever heard of Humol? He grabbed me, and then he led me into the hallway and said, be careful when you talk about that. Yes, of course, I studied the letters when I was
It's bullshit.
I examined the letters carefully and I pondered over the equations. I couldn't believe what he was telling me. The next week, I had to give another interview for Figaro. I went to Oxford, or maybe it was Cambridge, I don't recall, to see Stephen Hawking, who had just released a new book. Stephen Hawking is a physicist restricted to a wheelchair due to Lou Gehrig's disease. At the end of the interview, I asked him the same question. Have you ever heard of Humol? He was saying, yes, Humol. With one finger, he typed the word yes on the computer. I couldn't read it, so I asked him if he could tell me more about it. He adamantly replied, no, and wheeled away. The interview was over.
Although some researchers are incredibly enthusiastic about Humol, others see it as
Because he didn't want to make comment because it's bullshit.
such as a series of photographs of the Moonlight craft. In 1967, the Umlays announced in a mail package that one of their ships would be arriving soon. Then, on June 1st, 1967, an airship flew over the San Jose de la Dallas area of Madrid. By the strangest of coincidences, a couple of photographers just happened to be at that location and took several pictures of the object. Interestingly, once the pictures were published in the Nation of this newspaper, the two photographers vanished into thin air, as if they had never existed. Jean-Jacques Lastel, director of France's UFO research group, CETRA, recalls that an investigation was carried out by his predecessor. Oui, je sais que cette affaire aujourd'hui, yes, this matter popped up now and then. We hear about it in the media. It's quite simple, really. Our UFO research group was called Japan at the time, and our director, Claude Boer, discovered that a number of people in southern France were receiving strange packages in the mail. In these packages, the recipients found photographs of bizarre things happening in the sky. Claude Boer had one of the pictures analyzed, and it was shown that the photograph was nothing more than a model suspended from a nylon thread. An independent investigation led by Crown Saucer Watch, an organization specializing in photo analysis, confirmed Boer's conclusions. By digitizing one of the photos taken in San Jose de la Dallas, the expert had no trouble detecting the thread suspending the alleged UFO. Another controversial element was the quality of the information provided by the UN. According to Jean-Pierre Petit, the extraordinary things mentioned in the letters proved their alien origin. But was the information truly ahead of its time, as he claimed?
No.
Professor Petit said that the first packages from the UN, dating back to 1952, contained references to parallel universes, which most physicists believe are composed of antimatter. Professor Petit claimed that no one on Earth could have imagined such a concept back in 1952. He used the same argument for magnetic hydrodynamics, or MHD, a principle of propulsion that consists of moving an object within a dense atmosphere by wrapping it in a sort of magnetic cocoon. Petit said that when the Umlaut reports mentioned MHD, it was a highly revolutionary principle for its time. Jean-Pierre Petit's main problem is a question of dates. The first Umlaut letters did not date back to 1952, but rather 1966. As for the
Sci-fi were doing it.
What's that?
Sci-fi stories, parallel universes, and all that.
Did they?
Yeah, long before scientists decided, hang on, might be something to this. Yeah, but now they do. Yeah, but science fiction writers were writing about parallel universes and all that stuff.
The Enoch brothers are like a team capable of accessing the reader's intuition. They contain a lot of hidden information, and it's like an imaginative mind like not getting the keys to find the building blocks of the ideas being expressed. Researchers everywhere do the same thing. I don't think the Enoch gave any explicit explanation, and I feel that John that he underestimated the importance of his work. He was able to find two or three concepts in the report due to his imagination and scientific intellect. What he accomplished was not easy, and it was a lot of hard work. The Enoch letters stimulated his imagination. Everything that he came out with was not stated explicitly in the Enoch report. They only gave pointers.
The question remains, who wrote the Umayyad reports? It is true that they were nothing more than a hoax, but it is generally agreed that they must have been produced by well-managed organizations. But who and why? In 1993, one of the key players in the Humo affair, Jose Luis Joran Peña, admitted to having written the Umayyad letters. As an engineer, Peña had the knowledge required to have written these reports. But did he work alone, or did he have accomplices? Peña's confessions did not convince everyone, and especially not Professor Petit. Peña's confession came at a time when I just received a package in the mail from Saudi Arabia, signed by the Umayyads, proposing that we meet. What was that? Okay. Who knows if this would have come about or not? But it was reported due to an error made by Fabio. You know, that was when Peña began acting odd, saying all sorts of things, like the fact that he had written the Umayyad document. I was at Rafael Fabio's house when he and Peña discussed the matter. They had known each other for about 20 years, and by announcing that he had written the document, Peña had made Fabio look like a fool. So Fabio was very upset, you know how Spaniards can get when they're angry. That's when I heard Peña say to Fabio, "Don't be mad, Rafael. The Umayyads were the ones who told me to do it." Do what we believe. Aliens flying in a flat suspended from a nylon thread, who order their agents to lie on their behalf to preserve their anonymity, or Jose Luis Joran Peña, a man tired of the 25-year cat and mouse game he's been playing with UFO researchers who have been desperately trying to determine his identity. Will we ever learn all of the details surrounding the UFO affair?
Even later on, it's nothing more than a dream until we get some definite answers, but we never will. The Umo affair is one of life's mysteries, like the quest for the Holy Grail.
In the mid-1990s, Raymond Santilli, a London-based film distributor, publicly announced that he had just laid his hands on a film showing an alien autopsy. According to Santilli, the film had been taken by a former U.S. Air Force cameraman who had turned over the 16mm reels. In 1947, this cameraman had supposedly been ordered to take the autopsy of an alien found in the desert near Roswell, New Mexico. The day after the autopsy, the cameraman developed a film which was never turned over to the Air Force for some odd reason. Fascinated by such an intense subject, TV networks around the world were upset by this rare find. As the film seemed to be authentic, even Aircraft Greyhound special effects technician was taken in by the film. That the first time that I saw Ray Santilli's alien autopsy, I spent several days thinking that it might be real. Because there weren't really any clues that jumped out to say that it was a fake. I didn't notice any electrical wires hanging from the alien's arms, and I didn't see any marks indicating that it was a mannequin. Not the one in it. However, shortly after the film was released to the public, several UFO believers began to have doubts as to its authenticity. The circumstances surrounding the release of the film raised serious doubts. Timothy Good is one of the Britain's most well-known UFO researcher. He has published several books on the subject of UFOs, such as Top Secret. Regarding the alien autopsy film, which was presented by Ray Santilli some years ago, I'm convinced it's a hoax. Suspicious that I was not invited to the original showing of the film, and even a month before I tried to contact Ray Santilli, he ignored my request to see the film. I'm convinced that it's quite a clever fabrication done by various individuals, and I'm sure that their names will be known in due course. Now, Santilli, of course, maintains that it's genuine.
Nothing more has been said, has it, that
And so
on that alien autopsy?
But he has never supplied any actual
Anyone actually seen that,
from the film for proper analysis. The day after the autopsy film was first shown in 1995, several people claimed that it contained proof that it had been filmed later in 1947, such as the microphone hanging over the autopsy table and the telephone that appeared behind the doctors, which was said to be more recent models than those used in 1947.
it's all bullshit.
Well, they didn't do their research properly.
Private viewing at Bell Canada. Technicians confirmed that the telephone was a 352, a commercial model used as early as 1941. As for the microphone, we checked with the technicians at Shore Brothers in Illinois, who advised us that the model in the film had been available on the market since 1942. In other words, there was no proof that the film had not been taped in 1947. Unable to prove that it was filmed later than 1947, analysts turned to a theory that it was possibly a clever trick, an argument countered by the exorbitant cost of such a production.
Hollywood,
Hey?
Hollywood.
Eric Gosler said that he could prove this objection wrong. On the TV show, I was challenged to create the autopsy film.
America said they're gonna let out all these UFOs to come out.
Open up an autopsy as was done in the
But
Santilli
it
film.
didn't really say anything.
It never does.
Eric Gosler and his brother
Never
Carl
does.
produced the film whose sole purpose was
Look.
to prove that Ray Santilli
These
came
people got asked
Just
to be retrieved at a reasonable cost. And they tell us, look, obviously I didn't have $200,000 to invest in my production. On top of that, there was the question of what my version would be in. I only had 2 weeks to shoot all together. I managed to get it done within the 2 weeks for less than $2,000. Even though they proved that it was possible to produce something similar to alien autopsy at reasonable cost, the Gosler brothers in no way proved that Santilli's film was a fake. Further proof was still needed. Santilli was still keeping quiet about the identity of the person who had taped the film. Finally, after being bombarded with questions, the film distributor said that it had been created by Jack Barnett, a cameraman who had also taped initial testing of the atomic bomb that was Trinity, New Mexico. Research showed that only 2 cameramen were authorized to film those famous tests, and neither one of them fit the description given by Ray Santilli. The British producer also claimed that his film had been analyzed by the Kodak Film Company, who supposedly confirmed that it did indeed date back to 1947. There was something not quite right about this. We got in touch with Peter Nielsen, the person at Kodak's England office who had performed this alleged analysis. He wrote to us explaining that he never analyzed Santilli's film. However, he did admit to having studied a piece of film submitted by the British producer. It was a blank piece of celluloid used along the film on its reel. Based on the specific code appearing on this celluloid, Nielsen wrote that it was possible that it had been removed from the film dating back to 1947. He also cautioned that since it was void of any image, there was no way of proving that it had come from the autopsy film. Santilli distributes old American movies and could have easily taken the celluloid from any production dating back to 1947. No one has ever seen the actual film that the autopsy was taped on. Santilli generally shows the film on magnetic media, with the pretext
Yeah, you need to examine the reels.
To show people the metal cases in which he keeps the reels.
Well, no one's
It's a
allowed
suspicious looking label. Other than a few mundane markings, the label bears the official stamp of the American Department of Defense. This raises two points. Firstly, if the film was never turned over to the Air Force in the first place, then why does it bear their stamp?
Yeah.
Secondly, upon checking the National Archives office in Washington, D.C., it was discovered that this stamp was not made official by the U.S. President until October 1947, at least 4 months after the autopsy film was dead. A flaw in the film date has finally been found. John Spencer has written many books on UFOs, including an encyclopedia. For many years, he also headed the British UFO Research Association, or BUFORA, the largest UFO group in Great Britain.
Now, I have to say that there is so much evidence that it's a fake that that's where my opinion is. The way in which it came to life, the way in which the whole film is shot, it has a certain theatricalness about it. And when we compare it to actual what's been done at the time, so actually it's not that good. It's not the way it was done and so on. So there's an awful lot wrong with that film. The question, of course, is paramount, I suppose, was Ray Santini the person who faked it, or was he a victim of the hoaxer himself? And on that question, I think that you already answered.
In the police world, it is well known that to find a culprit, you need to know who is profiting from the crime. Today, it is estimated that Raymond Santilli has made about $7 million on his autopsy.
Oh, really?
P.T. Barnum is credited with saying, "A fool is born every minute."
Yeah.
If P.T. Barnum is alive today, the showman would certainly be amused to see that one of his exhibits was passed off as an alien hand. The television networks paid several $1,000s to show the autopsy of a rubber mannequin, and that scientists are pouring over matters of questionable alien origin in the hopes of finding revolutionary new ideas. If P.T. Barnum was alive today,
But people want to know, no?
in the field of
You're never
UFOs.
going to get the truth.
No.
Oh, they think they're all not ready to see anything.
Bullshit. I think people are looking for something different.
No, you're never going to. Unless a UFO crashes today, because you've got that many planes and that, but you've got the internet, you're going to capture footage nowadays.
Everybody's got a phone, haven't they?
Yeah? So,
And you don't see much now, do you?
no, there's like every
Because there is nothing.
UFOs, you don't see them.
No.
And how come those people with telescopes, they've got to see out the moon and wherever, they can't even pick up a bloody, and their satellites don't pick up any UFOs.
Satellites are not supposed to.
Hey? A satellite can take
Yeah,
pictures.
but that's only if it's been told to do it, but it doesn't.
Yeah.
Because it's for information, that's for the internet
Mm.
and wireless shit.
Don't tell you what, you look out for people or whatever. The satellite can take a photo of a person picking his nose.
Good cameras, eh?
Yeah. You've been spotted.
CBS Radio interrupted its regular programming to announce that a plane flying
Oh, there's Lawson Wells. Yeah.
Well, oh, they were so stupid in America.
Aren't they?
They believe that they were getting attacked. You know, only went on.
It made Orson Welles famous.
Yeah, I know, but it only went on, for, half an hour, and then, they thought they were getting attacked. How stupid are they?
Moments later, came the announcement that people approaching the object had been struck down by a mysterious gas ray. The invasion had begun. Bombed with their incredible war machine, these Martian invaders would destroy everything in their path. There would be no stopping their progress. It would take the Martian invaders
You couldn't imagine people actually doing it.
At least there was only radio, Henry.
Yeah, I know it's good radio,
But the way they did it, they put there's an interruption.
hey?
See, that by saying that.
Yeah, people can be so stupid. That's like saying, the Russian people don't know what's going on in Ukraine. That's bullshit. They would have to know. Because you've got Ukrainians, which is handling, their Russian, relatives and that. They would have to know what's going on. They can't say, oh, it didn't happen, like the Germans put on the bridge. It didn't happen.
Could UFOs be assigned to external forces, or does their mystique have a more sociological origin? How is it that UFOs have changed over the past 50 years, from plastic flying saucers to ominous black triangles? The changes in stories of alien encounters are even stronger proof of this evolution. Just a half century ago,
And people want to be pros.
small people with big bug eyes. How can we explain this change in the way they look? This is second. In the last 50 years, there has been a noticeable evolution in UFO phenomena. In the early 1950s, you had the sense of flying saucers that had a tendency to break down inside the sky, like a trusty old sword. Great for aliens with
You know nothing, they wouldn't have written on it, on the spaceship, would they?
No.
And the serial number, Enterprise.
and in the early 1990s, there were waves of triangle sightings. It seems that there has been an evolution in UFOs and aliens. In actual fact, this evolution has a familiar ring to it, since aliens have evolved in science fiction as well. In 1978, Beth Monahan, a philosopher by trade, published a book that essentially revolutionized the way we think about UFOs, called No Show and People One, literally science fiction and flying saucers. In it, he made a connection between UFOs and science fiction that apparently no one else
Is he taking clothes off the line?
flying saucer stories from after 1947, with popular science fiction shows prior to 1947. There are many interesting similarities.
Huh? Is he taking clothes off the line?
No, I ain't taking it off. But he's doing what he's doing.
Why don't you take him for a walk?
From what I've read about it, and it takes a very long time from it's done.
Oh, he's already.
He's already trying to kill him.
No, he's a pal. No, he's sorry, mate. I will, don't worry. familiar with it. They were it's sci-fi books.
Yeah, there are a lot of people who like it.
Yeah, yeah, science fiction.
For example, science fiction introduced the idea of manipulating or having problems in others.
Okay.
They're often suspected of being aliens in disguise who visit and interact UFO visitors. As early as 1930, a document by Fortean Edmund Hamilton described one of these beings disguised as a human, going around affecting or killing people because they need to lunch. All you get this general idea. So you see there is a distinct correlation between the American fiction of the 1920s and 30s and UFO stories reported later on. That being said, there is no way of knowing precisely how the transmission occurred. This would take a highly specialized sociological study that, for all intents and purposes, would be next to impossible to conduct today.
They made them into bloody movies. That's how.
Yeah, we can't.
Everyone insists that aliens transmitting the back to influence the accounts of UFO tragedies. The people subconsciously draw on scientists people or who have damaged their thoughts, or who have really experienced what they claim. Some extraordinary technological advances were made at the end of the 19th
And
century.
they did come to Earth, they'll be that far advanced in their technology.
How are they saying it?
Jules Verne wrote Rover the Conqueror, a novel in which the hero travels the world in an amazing flying machine, a cross between a boat and a lift. At about the same time, strange objects began to appear in the sky over the United States. It was the dawn of airship, flying machines that looked more like dirigibles than spaceships. While some people saw this coincidence as an uncanny parallel to science fiction, others saw it differently.
People really,
When discussing the made of science fiction on UFO sightings, people will often bring up the wave of airships over the United States in 1897. Here's a great airship at a one or more objects were seen flying over the city. Some people even claim to have met the opposite. Rationalists pointed to a Robert the Conqueror and other futuristic novels that sci-fi novels were known back then. Saying that they had influenced billions to create these cultures, which was probably true in some cases. Film but literature wasn't the main cause of the wave. There was just something in the air at the time.
Oh yeah. Oh nothing. Yeah. No. Right.
Not just nuts and bolts, but heavy-duty hardware. These were machines that could not have been able to fly at all. So, people claim to have seen giant steel cylinders with paddles flying in the sky, which was very strange indeed. And we need to consider the possibility that people really did see these older
well, they draw.
This is a project that has always been because these projects occurred before 1947.
You want to see the whole world, the whole was nothing in my food.
Before, and they looked
So what I said is, and then you do put it back. Wow. No, they're not kept around. That's what they're on the floor. So it's not really good. Some go in there.
And sneak behind a tree, roll one up, and have a quick puff. You know, like dingo dog.
No. Animal dog food and tobacco and
Yeah, I know, dingo dog.
No, I've seen bloody dogs, but then you used
I know cockatoos like
cigarettes
cigarettes
too.
too.
Yeah, but with the island job, right, and then you sort of leave your stuff there, and they had dogs that used to walk around. And everybody gets it, and I said, then bring you just like your phone. No, it's too late, you already had them in the mail. You leave your shit there around, you think the dogs, they eat it.
Oh no, old boy's second wife, right? She had a bloody dog, and old boy's never encountered it. But the dog used to come home with milk. He would steal the neighbour's milk.
Yeah, well, those glass bottles.
I think he had the glass bottles. He'd come on over and what the fuck? He'd bring him home. She had somehow taught him how to steal milk. The wife.
Oh, yeah.
Smart cat.
Certain birds,
Well, the cat didn't get locked up, did he?
no. But on certain birds, they like shiny objects. Magpies, yeah, they'll bloody. Yeah, birds do.
He was working. They have robber crabs. And I go, what? He goes, yeah, they got robber crabs. I go, what do you mean robber crabs?
Oh,
You know,
red crab.
you never leave your shoes outside because they nick them. They call them robber crabs, and I'm thinking rubber crabs. What I'm trying to. Yeah, they steal. You never leave anything outside.
The red crab.
I don't know what they're called, robber crabs.
And they steal everything.
Yeah, they rob you. Yeah, but then he takes them outside and decides I'm going to chew them. Where is he? Is he on the lead? Yeah. I'd whack him. I would have whacked him hard. Nah, because I would have whacked him. Oh, nah, that's where you do it. No, you do a quick hard whack when he does that. Until you can learn. That's where you assert your dominance. No, no. Yeah. He just knows to leave me alone because I tell him to piss off. How's it go?
Likewise, science fiction with ideas from UFO researchers. It boils down to the age-old debate
Needs to put compost around. Less work for you. When are you going to empty your fly traps? Oh, this is so gross. Put it on eBay. You want somebody to buy it. I'll have a count. Let's have a count. Guess how many fly. Oh, bullshit. Bullshit. Yeah, no. Yes. Bullshit. You lie. Yes.
They also lecture presidents of galactic relations between Earth and extraterrestrials. UFOs evolved early in the 20th century. Then along came the comic book. Protector of the human race. Superheroes are a whole other aspect of their
You find it? Whacking. Oh, the leaves. I thought they were put in a container. I never really paid attention to that name, Whacking. Whacking. Isn't it Waken? Whacking. Whacking.
The most exotic thing about them was probably the costume and the appearance of the characters. The folks say they were really in the 1930s. So they all came to an end in the early 1960s with the advent of television and driving movie theaters along with new technology and media. That sort of has moved more into paperback novels. Still, there are important parts of the legacy of comic book literature. Because they all know where they begin. And that is often. Later on, I find out Scott Sample all over the world. flying saucers, you know, throughout America. That's what I'm concerned about the money. All that really matters was that these visitors from outer space were a money maker. States were so off the face of the earth when they were replaced with television. There were a few people out there who said that
Yes, I'm more
they found a movie where they did a role that teaching the public about it.
and
There's been more monetized than the Bible. That is the 1950s that we could probably look at the business plan and the thing. That really started to take first contact with the these movies were that aliens were either totally misunderstood or they were portraying some kind of a threat. So that kind of television also picked up on the threat.
you know what it is? The moment that was there's gonna be, is it?
So they started working with black technology. Then became a global threat, popping up in their movies and there weren't too many movies like this in the Bible sector that were few American films.
Here's some more stuff here.
In the nation of film, Ratu, played by Michael Reddy, claimed that he struck the war man against an aggressive way. Less than a year later, a man named George Adamski revealed that an alien from the planet Venus had come to him to warn him about humanity's hostile tendencies. Just like Adamski's way, scientific movies began to reflect the concerns of society at the time. There is a kind of a symbolism in science fiction to look at the way films have evolved over the years.
No, the
For instance, in the 1950s, there were a lot of movies about inventions that tell us the social it's all about rooting out the rest. That's why the science market, red science, was often used to represent the effort. Red science, red army, they were all the same. Political tensions were starting to subside by the time Star Trek began. Star Trek and message were much more peaceful. They told us much more political climate. People were watching what was happening in Vietnam, and people were coming to red. So there have always been trends that follow the world political situation. That allows them to develop and all of a sudden there needs to be like that really guy out. Today we're both doing and it all depends on the social conditions of the time. In hindsight, it might be easier to spot the connection, but the way going down to these visitors from Venus and the aliens when they stood still, or the implants that so-called FFP talked about. And the device is used in invaders of Mars, but it's just enough to claim the phenomenon is complicated as UFOs. This is the rest of the aliens appearing unfortunately, and I say unfortunately, it's not but it quickly doesn't all that important to great people.
What are they? Oh, they're collector's items. And I've seen how you bloody look at them. I look after them. Right? They're collector's items. You know you can't get them anymore. And they're the good groups. Oh, God. Yeah, right.